6 months had passed since the attack on Velthar Prime. Earth had changed in ways that most people were still trying to understand. The secret that had been kept for 50 years was finally public. Humanity knew it was not alone in the universe. More importantly, humanity knew it had a seat at the galactic table. In Seoul, at the United Nations Space Command headquarters, Admiral Dae-hyun stood before a wall of windows overlooking the city. He wore a new uniform now, one with 5 stars instead of 4, Fleet Admiral of Earth's revealed military. It was a title that carried weight across 847 star systems. Behind him, the command center buzzed with activity. Officers from 20 different nations worked side by side, monitoring Earth's new position in galactic affairs. Display screens showed diplomatic channels, trade negotiations, and the movements of ships, both human and alien, throughout the local sector. Captain Yuna entered the office carrying a data pad. She had been promoted to commander, and now headed the Xenolinguistics Institute, but she still made time to brief Dae-hyun personally on important matters. "Admiral, the latest reports from Ambassador Subin," she said, handing him the pad. 17 new trade agreements finalized this week. The Roth Collective wants to purchase our quantum computing technology. The Helnar Federation is offering mineral rights on 3 uninhabited worlds in exchange for medical technology. And the Velthar Empire has sent another formal apology. Dae-hyun smiled slightly. "How many apologies is that now?" 14. "I think they're still in shock. Their new empress, Telvara, seems genuinely interested in building a peaceful relationship." "Fear does that," Dae-hyun observed. "They're afraid we'll attack again. But fear is a poor foundation for peace. We need to give them something more." Yuna nodded. "Dr. Hana's team has been working on that. They've developed medical applications for our neural technology. It could help the Velthar who are still suffering from the Cascade device. Hana thinks she can reverse the neural damage within 6 months. Good. Authorize the transfer of that technology to Velthar medical teams. Let them see we're not just capable of destruction." A knock on the door interrupted them. Captain Jin-woo entered, followed by Defense Minister Tae-wan. Both men looked pleased. "Admiral," Jin-woo began, "I wanted to report that the training program is complete. 53 different species have sent military observers to watch our special operations training. Most of them are terrified of what they've seen." "Let me guess," Dae-hyun said. "They're asking to form joint training exercises?" "Exactly. They want to learn from us, but they're also trying to figure out our capabilities. I've been authorized to show them only about 20% of our actual methods." Tae-wan moved to the window, looking out over Seoul. "It's remarkable, isn't it? 6 months ago we were irrelevant. Now we have civilizations that have existed for millennia, asking us for guidance. They want our weapons, our technology, our tactical knowledge. Earth has become a major power almost overnight." "Not overnight," Dae-hyun corrected gently. 50 years of preparation. Thousands of people dedicating their lives to a secret they couldn't share. We earned this position." Tae-wan turned back. "Speaking of which, I wanted to tell you personally, the government has approved the expansion of our fleet. We're building 20 more ships using the quantum drive technology, and we're establishing 3 new research facilities on Mars, Europa, and Titan. The silent protocol might be over, but our technological development continues." Yuna pulled up new data on her pad. "Admiral, you should see this. We've been monitoring galactic communications since the attack. There's been a significant shift in how species interact with each other. Several long-standing conflicts have ended in peaceful negotiations. The Helnar Federation and the Core Empire signed a non-aggression pact last week after being enemies for 3 centuries. They're afraid," Jin-woo said. "They've seen what we can do. They're thinking, if humans could hide their capabilities for 50 years, what else might be hiding? It's made everyone more cautious, more diplomatic." "That was part of the plan," Dae-hyun admitted. "We didn't just want respect for Earth. We wanted to change the galaxy's entire approach to warfare. Make them think twice before dismissing anyone. Make them consider that the species they're about to attack might be hiding something terrible." A holographic communication request appeared in the air. Yuna activated it and Dr. Hana's face materialized. She looked tired but satisfied. "Admiral, I wanted to update you on the reconciliation program. We've treated 2,000 Velthar who were affected by the neural cascade. All of them have made full recoveries. Empress Telvara has personally thanked us and offered unrestricted access to their medical database in return." "How are you holding up, Doctor?" Dae-hyun asked. He remembered her moral conflict before the attack. Hana smiled sadly. I'm still not comfortable with what we did. Using weapons like that even against military targets feels wrong. But I'm finding peace in fixing the damage. We proved our point. Now we can show them we're not monsters. We're just people who refuse to be dismissed. After the hologram faded, Taiwan spoke quietly. The UN is planning a public ceremony next month. They want to honor everyone who worked on the silent protocol. 50 years of Secret Service finally acknowledged. Some of them won't want the attention, Daehyun said, thinking of the thousands of scientists, engineers, and soldiers who had lived double lives for decades. They did this work because it needed to be done, not for recognition. I know, but the world deserves to thank them. They saved us from being forever irrelevant. A priority message flashed on the main display. Yuna brought it up, her eyes widening. Admiral, it's from Ambassador Subin on Velthar Prime. The Galactic Council is voting today on Earth's full membership status. We'll move from provisional to permanent. The command center fell quiet as everyone watched the screen. The vote was projected in real time. Species after species voted yes. Some did it eagerly, wanting Earth as an ally. Others did it reluctantly, afraid of what might happen if they voted no. But the result was the same. 847 votes. 847, yes, it's unanimous, Yuna breathed. Full council membership? We're equal partners now in galactic governance. Cheers erupted throughout the command center. Officers who had spent their careers in secret, working on projects they couldn't tell their families about, celebrated openly. Earth had not just earned recognition, it had earned a voice in shaping galactic policy. But Daehyun remained quiet. Jinwoo noticed and stepped closer. Sir, this is what we worked for. Why aren't you celebrating? Because this is just the beginning, Daehyun replied. We've proven we can't be dismissed. We've shown our strength, but now comes the hard part, using that strength wisely. The galaxy will watch everything we do. One mistake, one moment of aggression beyond what's justified, and we become the threat everyone fears. Taewon nodded. He's right. We need to be very careful going forward. We've opened a door that can't be closed. Every species now knows that appearances can be deceiving. Some of them will start their own secret programs trying to hide capabilities like we did. The galaxy has become a more paranoid place. Maybe that's not entirely bad, Yuna suggested. Paranoia breeds caution. Caution prevents war. If everyone is afraid of what others might be hiding, they'll think twice before starting conflicts. Chief Engineer Kyung-ho's face appeared on another holographic display. He was calling from Hangar 0 on the moon. Admiral, I thought you'd want to know. We've completed the new ship designs. The next generation will be even more advanced than what we used against Velthar Prime. How much more advanced? Daehyun asked. Kyung-ho grinned. Let's just say that if the 8 ships we sent could disable 1 capital world in 11 minutes, the new designs could disable 10 capital worlds simultaneously. But Admiral, I've been thinking, do we really need to keep building more powerful weapons? We've already shown we're the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Maybe it's time to focus on other things. Daehyun considered this. What did you have in mind? Exploration technology, medical advancement, environmental restoration. We've spent 50 years preparing for war. Maybe the next 50 should be spent building peace. I like that idea. Dr. Hana's voice came through her still active channel. We've proven we can destroy. Let's prove we can create. Daehyun made a decision. Commander Yuna, send a message to all our research facilities. 50% of our resources will continue defensive research. We can't let our guard down completely. But the other 50% will focus on peaceful applications, medicine, agriculture, environmental technology. We'll show the galaxy that Earth isn't just dangerous. We're also valuable. Jinwoo looked skeptical. Admiral, we can't appear weak. The moment we let down our guard, we won't let down our guard, Daehyun interrupted. But we also won't become a species defined only by our capacity for violence. The Velthar Empire made that mistake. They built an empire on conquest and intimidation. Look where it got them. We'll be different. We'll be strong enough that no one dares attack us, but generous enough that no one wants to. Taewon smiled. The carrot and the stick. Speak softly and carry a singularity missile. The veiled citadel floated in the darkness of space like a massive jewel. The station was enormous, larger than most moons, and it served as the meeting place for the 12 most powerful species in the galaxy. Inside its halls, Decisions were made that affected trillions of lives across hundreds of worlds. Today, the Grand War Council was meeting for the 47th time, and the mood was darker than ever before. The council chamber was a massive room that could have held a cathedral inside it. 12 circular tables were arranged in a half-moon pattern, each one holding the representatives of a different alien species. At the center sat High Arbiter Velmoth, a tall reptilian creature with 4 arms and scales that shimmered like oil on water. His black eyes surveyed the room with barely concealed frustration. 300 years, Velmoth said, his voice echoing through the chamber. 300 years of war and we are no closer to victory. The Krath Empire continues to expand. Emperor Drogon has conquered 200 worlds and our forces cannot stop him. Fleet Commander Thurin clicked his mandibles nervously. The insectoid warrior had led the coalition's forces for the past decade, and each year brought only more defeats. Our last offensive was a disaster, he admitted, his translator converting his clicks into words everyone could understand. 12 million casualties, 30 warships destroyed. We didn't even breach their outer defenses. Around the room, the other council members shifted uncomfortably. The Krath Empire had been a threat for centuries, but in recent years it had become an existential crisis. Emperor Drogon was a military genius and a warrior without equal. He had never lost a battle. His forces were disciplined, his technology was advanced, and his ruthlessness was legendary. In the back of the chamber, standing rather than sitting, was Ambassador Jiwoo. She was human, one of the few of her species allowed in the Citadel. For 2 years, she had been petitioning for humanity's membership in the coalition. For 2 years, she had been denied. The other species saw humans as primitives, barely capable of space travel. Earth had only achieved faster-than-light travel 80 years ago. In galactic terms, humans were infants. Perhaps, said Counselor Shindar, a bird-like creature with brilliant purple feathers, we should consider alternative strategies. The frontal assaults are not working. Alternative strategies? Admiral Craven laughed, a harsh sound that came from his throat. The militaristic reptilian had no patience for what he saw as weakness. We have tried everything. Blockades, sieges, targeted strikes. Nothing works. Drogon is unbeatable. Jiwoo wanted to speak, to suggest that perhaps humanity could help, but she knew it would be useless. She had made that suggestion dozens of times. The answer was always the same. Humans were too weak, too inexperienced, too primitive to matter in a war of this scale. Velmoth raised one of his 4 hands for silence. We must accept the possibility that this war cannot be won through conventional means. Perhaps it is time to consider a negotiated peace. The room erupted. Half the council members shouted in anger, the other half in relief. The translation system struggled to keep up with the cacophony of different languages and sounds. Peace with the Krath Empire would mean surrender. It would mean accepting their dominance, their rule, their cruelty. The argument raged for several minutes until a sound cut through the noise. It was a deep, resonating boom that shook the very walls of the chamber. The massive doors at the entrance, doors that were supposed to be sealed during council sessions, exploded inward. Metal fragments scattered across the polished floor. Smoke billowed into the room. Every being in the chamber turned to look. Guards rushed forward, weapons drawn. The smoke began to clear and a figure emerged from it. He was human, that much was obvious. He wore armor that was scorched black in places and covered in dark stains that could only be blood. His face was scarred, with a particularly nasty mark running from his left eye to his jaw. His left arm was clearly cybernetic, the metal exposed in places where the synthetic skin had been burned away. He walked forward with a slight limp, but his steps were steady and purposeful. In his right hand he carried something large and heavy. As he got closer, the council members could see what it was. A crown. Massive and ornate, made of some black metal that seemed to absorb light. It was covered in intricate carvings and studded with gems that glowed with an inner fire. And it was dripping with dark, viscous fluid that could only be blood. The human walked straight to the center of the chamber, ignoring the guards who surrounded him with weapons aimed at his head. He reached the central table where Velmoth sat, and with a casual motion he dropped the crown onto the polished surface. It hit with a heavy clang that echoed through the now silent room. Dark blood splattered across the white table. The human looked at Velmoth, then at the rest of the council. His eyes were hard, the eyes of someone who had seen too much death and caused even more. When he spoke, his voice was rough, like gravel grinding together. Looking for this? He said, gesturing to the crown. Drogon won't be needing it anymore. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. They all stared at the crown, at the blood, at the human who stood before them as if he hadn't just walked into the most secure location in Coalition space. Velmoth was the first to react. He stood slowly, all forearms trembling slightly. That cannot be. It is, the human said flatly. I cut it off his head myself. Well, what was left of his head. Fleet Commander Thurin's mandibles clattered rapidly. This is impossible. Drogon is on the Krath throne world. The planet is protected by 3 layers of planetary shields, a fleet of 500 warships, and an army of 10 million soldiers. No one can reach him, the human shrugged. I just did. Ambassador Jiwoo stepped forward, her face pale. She recognized the man now. Captain Daewon, a mercenary who had once served in the Korean Federal Marines. She had heard he was operating in this sector, but she had no idea he was planning something like this. Captain Daewon, she said quietly. What have you done? Daewon turned to look at her. For a moment his hard expression softened slightly. My job, Ambassador. I completed the contract. Velmoth's aide, a small creature with too many eyes, was scanning the crown with a handheld device. Its eyes widened, all 12 of them. High Arbiter, it whispered. But in the silent chamber everyone heard. The DNA is a match. This is Emperor Drogon's crown. And the blood. It's fresh, less than 6 hours old. The chamber erupted again, but this time it was different. This wasn't argument or debate. It was shock, disbelief, and something else. Fear. Because if one human could do this, if one human could penetrate the most secure location in the Krath Empire and kill a warrior who had never been defeated, then what else were humans capable of? Daewon stood in the center of it all, calm and still, waiting for the chaos to die down. He had a story to tell, and they were going to listen. Whether they wanted to or not. Velmoth slammed all 4 of his fists on the table. The sound echoed like gunshots in the chamber. Silence, he roared. The council members slowly quieted, though everyone kept staring at the blood-covered crown. Captain Daewon, you will explain yourself immediately. How did you get that crown? Daewon pulled out a chair from one of the empty tables and sat down without being invited. Several council members gasped at the disrespect, but he didn't seem to care. It's a long story. You might want to sit down too. We are sitting, Admiral Craven growled. Then sit more comfortably, Daewon replied. This will take a while. Ambassador Jiwoo moved closer, studying Daewon's face. She could see the exhaustion there, the kind that came from days without sleep and constant combat. Start at the beginning, Captain, please. Daewon nodded slowly. 6 months ago, I was approached by someone from Coalition Intelligence. Never got a name, never saw a face. They used scrambled communications and anonymous payments. They had a job for me. What kind of job? Velmoth asked, though from his tone he already suspected the answer. They wanted Drogon dead, Daewon said simply. They gave me all the intelligence they had on the Krath throne world, access to some experimental stealth technology, and a promise. 50 million credits and humanity's admission to the Coalition if I succeeded. Jiwoo felt her blood run cold. They what? Daewon looked at her with something like sympathy. Sorry, Ambassador. Your petition for membership? It was already decided. The answer was no. This job, this suicide mission, was their way of making you and me both go away. Kill the annoying human mercenary and give the human ambassador false hope at the same time. Counselor Shindar ruffled her feathers nervously. This is a serious accusation, Captain. Coalition Intelligence would never, wouldn't they? Daewon interrupted. Think about it. Send a human on an impossible mission. When he fails and dies, you can tell the ambassador that humanity had its chance and failed. Clean, simple, no more petitions for membership. Velmoth's scales darkened, a sign of anger in his species. He turned to his aide. Investigate this claim immediately. If someone in Coalition Intelligence acted without authorization, I want to know. The aide scurried away. Daewon continued his story. I knew it was a setup from the beginning, but I also knew that if I actually succeeded, humanity would get recognition, real recognition, not just polite dismissals. So I took the job. How many soldiers did you take with you? Fleet Commander Thurin asked. How large was your force?
47, Daewon said. The chamber fell silent again.
Thurin's mandibles stopped clicking entirely. 47. 1,000? 47 people, Daewon corrected. My crew. Admiral Craven stood up so fast his chair fell backward. You infiltrated the most defended world in the galaxy with 47 soldiers. That's insane. 47 humans, Daewon said, echoing his earlier words. There's a difference. He activated a holographic projector from his armor. Images appeared in the air above the table, showing faces. Human faces. This is Hyojin, my second-in-command and pilot. Best navigator I've ever seen. She can fly through a solar storm if she has to. This is Tai Sung, weapons specialist. Calm as ice even when everything is exploding around him. This is Young Mi, combat medic and infiltration expert. She can get into anywhere and patch up anyone. More faces appeared. Sang-woo, our hacker. Mi-kyung, assault team leader. Won-shik, demolitions expert. Each face was young, determined, and very human. We spent 3 months preparing. Studying Krath military patterns, learning their language, training in high-gravity environments because the Krath homeworld has twice Earth's gravity. Jiwoo watched the faces and felt a strange mix of pride and sorrow. These were her people, humans who had risked everything for a chance at recognition. Where are they now? Daewon's expression darkened. Some are on my ship. Some are still on the Krath homeworld holding positions. And some, he paused. Some won't be coming back. Velmoth leaned forward. Tell us about the operation itself. How did you breach their defenses? We didn't breach them, Daewon said. We went around them. The Krath have 3 layers of planetary shields and a massive fleet in orbit. Direct assault would be suicide. So we used misdirection. He changed the holographic display. It now showed a map of Krath space. 2 weeks before the main operation, Tai Sung led 30 of my crew in stolen Krath ships. They hit a border fortress here. A red dot appeared on the map. They made it look like a coalition strike, complete with forged communication signals and captured coalition weapons. Counselor Shindar's eyes widened. The border incident 2 weeks ago. That was you? That was us, Daewon confirmed. The Krath mobilized half their fleet to the border, expecting a major coalition offensive. While they were looking one way, we came from another direction. The map shifted to show the Krath homeworld. Hyojin navigated our stealth ship through a stellar radiation storm. The Krath thought it was impossible to traverse. They were wrong. It took us 3 days and fried half our systems, but we made it through. Fleet Commander Thurin was leaning forward now, his earlier skepticism replaced by professional interest. Once you were past the fleet, you still had the planetary shields. Sang-woo handled those, Daewon said with a slight smile. Turns out when you're the dominant empire and no one has successfully attacked you in 400 years, you get complacent. Their shield systems hadn't been updated in 2 centuries. Sang-woo found 17 exploits in the first hour. He didn't even need all of them. 3 were enough to create a temporary gap. A gap large enough for 47 people? Velmoth asked. A gap large enough for 17 people, Daewon corrected. The others stayed with the ship or were still running the diversion. Young Mai's team made orbital insertion disguised as debris. The Krath sensors picked us up, but they thought we were just wreckage from the border battle. Admiral Craven shook his head in disbelief. 17 soldiers against a planet of 10 billion Krath, against the Emperor's personal guard. Against Drogon himself, 17 humans, Daewon repeated. We landed 3 kilometers from the Imperial Palace. Fought our way through the city. The Krath couldn't understand why we kept coming. They'd wound one of us, expect us to fall, but we'd keep fighting. Human pain tolerance is higher than most species realize. Jiwoo knew this was true. Human evolution had made them incredibly resilient. The Krath were stronger, faster, but humans could endure damage that would incapacitate other species. Mi-kyung's assault team lost 4 people getting to the palace. Daewon continued, his voice growing quieter. The palace guards were elite warriors. Each one was worth 10 normal soldiers. But humans have one advantage. We can adapt mid-battle. Every fight we learned. Every death taught us something new. The hologram showed the Imperial Palace now, a massive structure of black stone and red metal. It took us 72 hours from landing to reaching the throne room. 72 hours of constant combat. No sleep, no rest. Just fighting. Velmoth studied the human carefully. And Drogon? The Emperor who has never been defeated in personal combat? Daewon touched his scarred face, then gestured to his cybernetic arm. He didn't go down easy. The fight lasted 8 minutes. Felt like 8 hours. He was fast, strong, and he'd been training for 400 years. But he'd never fought a human before. Never fought someone who would sacrifice a limb just to create an opening. You sacrificed your arm? Counselor Shindar asked, horrified. It was already cybernetic, Daewon explained. I overloaded the power core and let him tear it off. The explosion wounded him badly. After that, it was just a matter of finishing the job with his own ceremonial blade. The council sat in stunned silence, trying to process everything they had heard. Finally, Velmuth spoke. This is the most audacious military operation I have ever heard of. And if your story is true, it changes everything. It's true, Daewon said, standing up. And there's more. But I think we all need a break first. Besides, Ambassador Jiwoo deserves to know what her own government's intelligence service tried to do to her people. Jiwoo met his eyes and nodded slowly. She had questions, so many questions, but they could wait. For now, she just needed to process the fact that humanity had done the impossible, and that they had done it alone. The council reconvened after an hour break. During that time, technicians had confirmed beyond any doubt that the crown was genuine. The blood had been analyzed, the DNA verified. Emperor Drogon, the unconquerable warrior who had ruled the Krath Empire for 4 centuries, was dead. The news was already spreading across the galaxy, and the political implications were staggering. Daewon stood in the center of the chamber again, looking more tired than before. The adrenaline that had carried him through the mission was fading, and exhaustion was taking its place. But he had more to tell, and the council needed to hear it. You've told us how you reached the Emperor, Velmuth said, his 4 arms folded. But I want details. The assault on the palace itself. How did 17 humans defeat thousands of elite guards? Daewon activated his holographic projector again. The image showed the layout of the Imperial Palace, a massive complex of buildings, courtyards, and defensive positions. The palace wasn't designed to keep people out. It was designed to impress and intimidate. The Krath never expected anyone to get past the planetary defenses, so the palace security had weaknesses. He pointed to several locations on the map. Young Mi identified 3 primary entry points. We split into 3 teams, 5 people each with 2 staying back as reserves. The plan was simple. Cause chaos, make them think we were a larger force, and fight our way to the throne room. Fleet Commander Thurin studied the map with professional interest. 3 teams of 5 against how many guards? Intelligence estimated 4,000 palace guards plus Drogon's personal elite guard of 200. Daewon shrugged. Turned out to be closer to 5,000 total. The Krath were having some kind of ceremony that day. Bad luck for them, good luck for us. More targets meant more confusion. Admiral Craven couldn't hide his disbelief. You're telling us that 15 humans fought 5,000 Krath warriors? We didn't fight them all at once, Daewon explained. That would be stupid. We used hit-and-run tactics. Strike fast, kill as many as possible, then disappear before they could organize. Mi-kyung's team hit the East Barracks, killed 30 guards in 2 minutes, then vanished into the ventilation system. The hologram showed the battle in animated form. Small blue dots representing humans moved through the palace, while red dots representing Krath guards scrambled to respond. The Krath military is excellent at formation fighting, at organized warfare, but they're not good at dealing with guerrilla tactics. They kept trying to form defensive lines, and we kept hitting them from unexpected angles. Counselor Shindar leaned forward, her feathers rustling. This guerrilla warfare, is this common among human military forces? It's one of many tactics we use, Daewon replied. Humans have been fighting each other for our entire history. We've had to get creative to survive. The Krath have been the dominant power for so long, they've forgotten how to fight a truly desperate enemy. He changed the hologram to show a specific corridor. This is where we lost our first team member. Corporal Jamin. He held a choke point for 6 minutes against 40 guards, gave his team time to reach the next objective. He knew he wouldn't survive. He did it anyway. Jiwoo felt tears forming in her eyes. These were her people, dying on an alien world for a chance at recognition. Did he have family? A wife and 2 children back on Earth, Daewon said quietly. They'll be taken care of. I made sure of that before I left. Velmuth's expression was hard to read, but his voice carried a note of respect. Continue, Captain. The hologram shifted to show a large courtyard. The palace gardens. This is where the Krath finally managed to organize a real defense. General Vorgosh, Drogon's top military commander, took personal command. He's almost as good as the Emperor was. He set up overlapping fields of fire, used the garden structures for cover, and had snipers on the rooftops. How did you overcome that? Fleet Commander Thurin asked. We didn't, Daewon said. We went under it. Sang-Woo had mapped the underground maintenance tunnels. We used them to get past the gardens entirely. Forgesh was so focused on defending the courtyard he forgot to watch the tunnels. Admiral Craven made a sound that might have been a laugh. Clever. But eventually you had to face them directly. At the throne room, yes. The hologram now showed a massive chamber with high ceilings and ornate decorations. The Emperor's elite guard was waiting. 200 of the best warriors in the Krath Empire. And Drogon himself. Daewon paused, remembering. By this point we were down to 12 people. We'd lost 5 in the palace assault. Everyone who remained was injured to some degree. Young Mi had been shot twice. Mi Kyung had a broken arm. I had taken a blade to the ribs. How did you fight in that condition? Counselor Shindar asked, genuinely curious. Pain suppressants, adrenaline, and sheer stubbornness, Daewon replied. Humans can function with injuries that would disable most species. It's not that we don't feel pain. We just have practice ignoring it. The hologram showed the battle, 12 blue dots against 200 red ones, with a larger red dot representing the Emperor himself. We used the throne room's architecture against them. The pillars, the raised platforms, the ceremonial decorations, everything became a weapon or cover. Wan Shik, our demolitions expert, had rigged the ceiling supports. When the elite guard charged us, he brought down half the roof. Fleet Commander Thurin's mandibles clicked rapidly. How many did that kill? Maybe 80, Daewon estimated. The rest were scattered, disorganized. We picked them off in small groups. But the Emperor, he touched his scarred face again. Drogon didn't panic. He didn't run. He stood in the center of the chaos and challenged me directly. Velmoth leaned forward. Tell us about the fight. He was 12 feet tall, 400 years old, and had never lost a battle. Daewon began. He moved like liquid metal, every motion precise and deadly. His species are natural predators, apex hunters. Their reflexes are twice as fast as humans. Then how did you win? Admiral Craven demanded. I cheated, Daewon said simply. Honor means nothing when you're fighting for survival. He expected a warrior's duel, a test of skill and strength. I gave him a brawl. I threw dust in his eyes, used my cybernetic arm to block his blade even though it nearly severed the limb, and when he tore the arm off, thinking he'd disarmed me, I detonated the power core. The hologram showed the explosion. The blast wounded him badly, burned his armor, cracked his scales. He was still dangerous, still deadly, but he was hurt and confused. He'd never fought someone willing to mutilate themselves for an advantage. Jiwoo could barely watch the hologram. The violence was staggering. And then, I picked up his ceremonial blade, the one that had cut off my arm, and I finished it. Daewon's voice was flat, emotionless. 8 minutes from start to finish. The longest 8 minutes of my life. The council chamber was silent. Even Admiral Craven, who had been skeptical from the beginning, looked impressed. Velmoth finally spoke. The crown. You took it as proof. I took it because your intelligence contact said I needed proof, Daewon replied. Otherwise, no one would believe it. A human killing the Emperor. Impossible, they'd say. So I brought the crown. Fleet Commander Thurin studied the hologram, watching the battle replay. This changes everything we know about human combat capabilities. Your tactics, your pain tolerance, your willingness to sacrifice. These are advantages we never considered. That's because you never asked, Jiwoo said, speaking up for the first time since the story began. Humanity has been trying to join this coalition for years. We offered our help, our technology, our soldiers, and every time we were dismissed as primitives. Counselor Shindar ruffled her feathers apologetically. You must understand, Ambassador. Humanity only achieved space travel recently. We thought you needed more time to develop. Time? Daewon laughed, but there was no humor in it. We don't have time. We have short lives compared to most of you. That's why we fight so hard. Why we take risks that seem insane. We have to accomplish everything in a handful of decades. Velmoth looked at the crown, at the blood that had dried on its surface. Captain Daewon, you have proven that humans are formidable warriors. But I need to know, what happened to the rest of your team? You said 12 entered the throne room. How many survived? Daewon's expression grew dark. Young Mi is in critical condition on my ship. Mi Kyung lost her arm and half her face. Wan Shik, he paused. Wan Shik didn't make it. He held off the last of the elite guard while the rest of us escaped with the crown. He bought us 3 minutes. It cost him everything. And the others? The ones who ran the diversion? Admiral Craven asked. A slight smile crossed Daewon's face, the first genuine expression since he'd entered the chamber. Taesung and his team? They didn't just run a diversion. They seized 14 Krath military shipyards in the confusion. Right now they're holding them and broadcasting surrender demands to the Krath fleet. The chamber erupted in shocked exclamations. Velmoth stood abruptly. They what? The Krath Empire is in chaos, Daewon explained. Without Drogon, 3 generals are fighting for control. The military is split, the civilian population is rioting, and 30 humans are holding their most strategic shipyards, preventing any faction from building more ships. He looked directly at Velmoth. So here's the situation. The council chamber descended into chaos. Representatives shouted at each other in a dozen different languages. The translation system struggled to keep up with the overlapping voices. Some council members were celebrating the news of the Krath Empire's collapse. Others were frightened by what humanity had accomplished. And a few were clearly angry that humans had succeeded where the coalition had failed. Velmoth slammed his fists on the table again, harder this time. Order! I will have order in this chamber! The noise gradually subsided. The High Arbiter's scales had darkened to almost black, a sign of extreme stress. Captain Daewon, you claim your forces hold 14 Krath shipyards? Not a claim, Daewon replied calmly. He pulled out a small data device and tossed it onto the table. It projected a live feed showing a massive orbital shipyard. Human soldiers in combat armor could be seen patrolling the docks. This is Shipyard 7. Taesung is there right now. Would you like me to call him? Fleet Commander Thurin moved closer to examine the projection. His mandibles clicked rapidly as he recognized the facility. That's the primary construction yard for Krath battleships. If you control that, you control their entire military production. We control 14 of them, Daewon corrected. Taesung picked his targets well. Between those shipyards, the Krath built 90% of their war fleet. Without them, none of the generals fighting for the throne can build new ships. They have to make do with what they already have. Admiral Craven studied the feed suspiciously. 30 humans are holding facilities that should have thousands of workers and guards. How is that possible? Most of the workers fled when the news of Drogon's death spread, Daewon explained. The ones who stayed were more interested in survival than fighting. As for guards, the shipyards were never designed to be defended from the inside. All their weapons point outward, at potential attackers. We came from within, from their own transport ships. Councillor Shindar looked troubled. But surely the Krath military will send forces to retake the shipyards. They're trying, Daewon said with a slight smile. But they can't agree on which general should control them once they're retaken. General Vorgash wants them. General Thaknar wants them. Admiral Craven wants them. So instead of working together, they're fighting each other. The civil war I mentioned? It started 3 days ago. Already 50,000 Krath have died fighting their own people. Jiwoo felt a chill run down her spine. This wasn't just a military victory. This was the systematic destruction of an entire empire, accomplished by fewer than 50 humans. Daewon, what exactly did you do? He turned to look at her. I completed the mission, Ambassador. Kill the Emperor. That was the contract. Everything else is just consequences. Consequences that you clearly anticipated, Velmoth said, studying the human carefully. You didn't just kill Drogon. You destroyed the Empire's command structure, seized strategic assets, and triggered a civil war. This was planned. Daewon didn't deny it. I told you I knew the mission was a setup. But I also knew that if I was going to risk my crew's lives, I might as well make it count. Killing one emperor wouldn't be enough. The Krath would just choose another one. But destroying their ability to wage war? That changes everything. Admiral Craven stood abruptly. This is too dangerous. The humans have proven they're a threat to any established power. If they can destroy the Krath Empire with less than 50 soldiers, what could they do with a real army? Is that fear I hear in your voice, Admiral? Daewon asked. Afraid that humans might be better at war than you thought? I'm afraid of what your species represents, Craven shot back. Uncontrolled violence. Reckless tactics. No respect for the established order. The established order was losing, Daewon replied coldly. Your coalition has been at war for 300 years and accomplished nothing. We ended it in 6 months. Velmoth raised a hand for silence before the argument could escalate. Captain, you mentioned that you have more information. Something important enough to bring here in person rather than transmitting. Daewon nodded. He reached into his armor and pulled out a data chip. It was small, unassuming, but from the way he handled it, clearly valuable. During the mission, Sang-Woo did more than hack the planetary shields. He downloaded everything he could from the Krath military networks. Defensive positions, fleet movements, communication codes, and most importantly, every weakness in their systems. He placed the chip on the table next to the crown. This chip contains everything you need to know to defeat the Krath. Every exploit Sang-Woo found. Every tactical vulnerability we discovered. Every mistake they made that we exploited. It's all here. Fleet Commander Thurin reached for the chip, but Daewon's hand shot out and stopped him. Not so fast. This information has value. More value than you can imagine. You want payment? Admiral Craven snarled. You would extort the Coalition while we're at war? I want what was promised, Daewon said firmly. Humanity's admission to the Coalition. Full membership, full voting rights, full access to Coalition technology and trade. That was the deal. Velmoth's expression was conflicted. The deal was made by someone acting without authority. We don't even know if Coalition intelligence actually made that offer. Does it matter? Daewon asked. The job is done. The Emperor is dead. The Krath Empire is collapsing. Whether the deal was official or not, humanity has earned its place in this coalition. Jiwoo stepped forward. He's right. For years I've been petitioning for membership. You always said humanity needed to prove itself, to show it could contribute to galactic society. Well, we've proven it. We've done what your entire coalition couldn't do. We've won your war. Counselor Shindar ruffled her feathers thoughtfully. The ambassador makes a valid point. Humanity has demonstrated significant military capabilities and strategic thinking. Perhaps it's time to reconsider their application. No, Admiral Craven said flatly. This only proves that humans are too dangerous. They should be quarantined, not welcomed. Quarantine us? Daewon laughed. Good luck with that. My crew is scattered across Krath space right now, holding strategic positions. More humans are coming. Word of our success is spreading. Soon every human mercenary, soldier, and adventurer in the galaxy will be heading to Krath territory, looking for glory and profit. Velmoth looked alarmed. You can't mean that thousands of human warriors will descend on the Krath Empire? Why not? Daewon shrugged. The Empire is in chaos. Rich targets everywhere. No central authority to fight back. It's a paradise for anyone looking for adventure or fortune. And humans love both. Jiwoo realized what Daewon was doing. He was forcing the Coalition's hand. Either accept humanity as members and gain some control over human activities, or watch as thousands of independent human fighters destabilize the entire region. Fleet Commander Thurin seemed to understand as well. This is blackmail. This is reality, Daewon corrected. You can work with us or you can watch us work without you. Either way, humanity is now a galactic power. The only question is whether we're your ally or your wild card. Velmoth was silent for a long moment, all four arms crossed in thought. Finally, he spoke. The Council will need to vote on this. It's too important a decision to make hastily. How long will that take? Jiwoo asked. Days at minimum, Velmoth replied. This will require consultations with our governments, reviews of legal precedents, assessments of the strategic situation. Daewon picked up the data chip. You have 48 hours. After that, I'm selling this information to the highest bidder. I'm sure one of the Krath generals would pay well for intelligence on their rivals' weaknesses. Several council members gasped at the threat. Velmoth's scales flashed with anger. You wouldn't dare? Try me, Daewon said calmly. I've been betrayed once already by your coalition. My crew has bled and died for a promise that might be broken. So yes, I absolutely would sell this to the Krath if it means securing humanity's future. Ambassador Jiwoo wanted to object, to say that humanity would never do such a thing. But she couldn't, because she knew Daewon was right. Humanity had earned its place, and if the coalition wouldn't recognize that, then humanity would forge its own path. Counselor Shindar stood. High Arbiter, I formally propose an emergency vote. Given the strategic situation and the time constraints, we cannot afford to delay. Velmoth looked around the chamber, seeing the mix of fear, anger, and grudging respect on the faces of the council members. Very well. We will vote in 1 hour. Council members, consult with your governments. Prepare your positions. This decision will shape the future of the galaxy. As the council members dispersed to make their calls and consultations, Daewon remained standing by the table, one hand on the crown, the other holding the data chip. Jiwoo approached him. That was risky, she said quietly, threatening to sell intelligence to the enemy. It was necessary, Day One replied. These people respect strength, not politeness. You've been polite for 2 years and it got you nowhere. Sometimes you have to show teeth. And if they vote no? If they refuse humanity's membership? Day One looked at her with those hard, tired eyes. Then humanity will remember that we did the right thing and got nothing for it. And the next time the coalition needs help, they'll have to beg for it. Or fight without us.